Greetings, fellow Earthlings. My name is Zach,
And I'm Jessica.
and this is
High Level Hairesy.
Question everything. Without the question, how can you have the answer? Wisdom comes from within. This is High Level Hairesy.
Today we're going to talk about food.
Nom nom.
What if the question isn't just what am I eating? What if the real question is what is eating me? Because every bite we take is either feeding ourselves, feeding inflammation, feeding addiction, feeding clarity, or feeding disease. And the uncomfortable truth is that a lot of what we call food today is not really food. It's a product. It's engineered, colored, preserved, flavored, marketed, subsidized, and sold back to us as convenience, while our bodies are over here waving the white flag.
This episode isn't about shame, and it's not about becoming perfect. It's about learning how to read the matrix of the modern food system and ask, who benefits when we're tired, inflamed, addicted, overweight, anxious, foggy, and medicated? Join us as we ask the question, am I what I eat? The business of being sick. But before we get into it, let's take our breath together to come into this space and get on the same wavelength, drop into the moment. I'll count us down. 1 will be your inhale. Inhale will be your 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2. Exhale. And if you're somewhere that you can sigh it out, audibly sigh it out, because it releases so much good for the body. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't that feel nice?
Always.
Okay, so food. Before we get into some of the juicy details, we'd like to give a little disclaimer that we are not giving you medical advice, and
We are not doctors,
we are not yet.
unless I'm the doctor of love.
Okay, yes. But we are giving information that we've gleaned for many years now, and I have taken a natural health consultant certification, learned a lot about food and what it does for the body. But every body is different, and the biochemistry of our bodies are different. Our blood types are different, and what is beneficial for one might not be beneficial for the other. So as we go into this, there are some things, however, that are kind of across the board, not good for a body and are good for a body. So just take what resonates, leave the rest, see if that inner voice speaks to you and, helps you glean anything from that.
I don't have any certifications. I just have a lifetime of trial and error.
And listening to me.
and listening to Jessica.
Well, you've done your own research and some things.
Oh, I do. I'm not gonna. I don't mean that to say that like I don't know anything. I do a lot of research as well into all the stuff, all the conversations we talk about. But as far as food and nutrition and stuff, I'm not a doctor. I've never had any kind of certification. I've just.
And I'm the cook.
Yep. And my diet did clean up quite heavily after Jessica and I got together a long time ago. And I mean, for the better, for sure. I mean, I think about that honestly frequently. I think about like what my life would look like if Jessica was not in it. Not that because I want that, but I often think like, man, what would I be doing different? And one of those things, the big thing would be probably my diet.
Mm.
My diet would I would probably still be drinking, because for those of you who don't know, I quit drinking a few years back, and I would probably still be drinking. I'd probably still be smoking cigarettes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd probably be eating shitty foods all the time.
And
not paying
two
attention.
things. The first thing, he did make those choices on his own. He was
I
not
did.
browbeat by myself.
No, but she is my inspiration. She's my muse. She is my inspiration. But yes, that was my choice. That was not anything that she made me do.
And the second thing that I'll say is we are by no means perfect. We
Eat Taco
I was
Bell
just going to say,
sometimes.
we occasionally still eat Taco Bell. Listen, I have loved Taco Bell since I was 7 years old. I wanted to work at Taco Bell at 7. And my mom was like, oh, okay. Because I was like, oh, I'll get free tacos. And that obviously shifted. And when I was in 7th grade, I'm going to go ahead and share.
I almost
I'm going to share.
called it here just a second ago. Here we go. Here's the poem.
Here is the poem. In 7th grade, I had to write a poem about something that we loved, and everybody was writing about their moms, and it was obvious that I loved my mom, but I wanted to do something different, and I will recite it for you. I love bean burritos from Taco Bell, you see. I would have to die if you took them away from me. The gooey beans and cheese wrapped in a tortilla shell. When I get the craving, they make me want to yell. I wish I could eat them every night with no onions on them at all. Please don't make them skimpy. Please don't make them small. There are other things from Taco Bell that I like very much, but if you ask me what I prefer, bean burritos would be my lunch. So
And both of our kids know this poem. by the way.
almost. They know about half of it. And my mom gave it to me recently, the OG, the original copy of it.
The handwritten copy.
It's not. It's typed out.
Oh, it's typed.
And it's got
She's
a
not
nice
that old.
little flower border around it. And I told them I'm going to frame it and you guys are going to have to fight over it when I die, who gets the original copy. But I think I'm going to make a copy and just give one to both of them since it's... But honestly, like I talk about, I wish I could eat them every night. Like, no, do not do that. But
also, Taco Bell is, for any vegetarians listening, it's just with fast food, at which Jessica's a vegetarian. Well, I guess technically she's a pescatarian, but it's just such an easy way to eat vegetarian things.
And I feel like it's one of the least offensive because, like, I'm sure I don't want to go behind the scenes or anything, but like
they got in trouble quite a few years ago over their meat.
Well, I don't eat that meat,
but
so
she doesn't eat that.
The beans feel pretty safe. Everything I eat is like bean related.
I'm sure there's some sort of oils or something in there that we would find out isn't the best for you. But I mean, dude,
I'm not a big believer in ignorance is bliss. I think that knowledge is power, but in this case,
it is when it comes to Taco Bell bean burritos.
So if you know some shit, don't tell me. No, I'm just kidding. If you know something, email
we don't
me.
really eat much fast food, and if we do, it typically is Taco Bell. Like couldn't tell you the last time I ate. Well, okay, you've gotten fries from McDonald's a few times, but
which even those have like 21 ingredients or something.
Right. That's pretty
Why
rare.
Do you need more than...
we don't even eat, McDonald's, none of that. So we typically, if we're going to do something, a lot of times it's Taco Bell, maybe Qdoba, because I feel like that's kind of a step, or Panda Express. It's a little bit better than just your standard fast food. But anywho, let's move on.
Yeah.
Man, I want a bean burrito now.
So food, a lot of people, there's something, do you eat for fun or do you eat for fuel? But food isn't just fuel. It's information, chemistry, frequency, and instruction for the body. We've been trained to think of food in a very flat way. We've got calories, carbs, protein, fat, but food is not just math. There's biological messaging. It affects inflammation, our hormones, blood sugar, mood, gut bacteria, cellular repair, immune function, brain chemistry, and even how clear or foggy we feel sometimes. The CDC states that poor nutrition is a significant risk factor for obesity and chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, some cancers, and depression. And I just have to say, the other night we were somewhere and this woman brings up diabetes. And she says, oh, I mean diabetes. My kids tell me they can tell how old I am because I still say diabetes. And anyway.
That is an age thing.
So diabetes.
Wilford Brimley.
So, okay. Food communicates with the body. It tells our cells what to do. Whole foods generally come packaged with fiber, minerals, antioxidants, water, enzymes, and phytochemicals. And then you've got your ultra-processed foods, and those come with refined starches, added sugars, industrial fats, additives, flavor enhancers, dyes, and textures engineered to actually keep you eating. And most people think that we've been taught 3 square meals a day.
That is not what we're supposed to do.
When I allowed my body personally to eat when it felt like it needed it. So really I have like a green juice in the morning, and then I really don't eat much until afternoon. Maybe I'll eat some like coconut yogurt or something, but it's kind of like an intermittent fasting almost, that, you don't eat for a certain, from the evening till like noon, and then you eat for a bit, and then that cuts off at a certain time. And fasting itself is so good for the body to give it a break, because if you think about it, you're eating your breakfast, and the body is spending time digesting that food. And so the energy that you might have to do a few other things like heal the body, it's busy digesting the food. And then you pack in more food, and maybe that first food isn't digested for lunch. And then you're not quite finished digesting, but then we have a full big dinner. And if you kind of give the body a break, there's tons of research out there, but you don't just quit eating. You do have to, there's ways to go about it and how to kind of train your body into fasting. But like starting with, maybe a single fruit that you eat for like a few days, and then you go from there, and you kind of want to detox the body a bit before you straight go into fasting.
And you can supplement, like we've talked about it before, but you can supplement, some of the necessary things that your body needs. Like you can do like broth. You can drink bone broth is one way to kind of keep some of those vitamins and minerals and some protein and stuff like that in your body, so that you don't get like too. But I mean, it's really not that hard it can be rough, especially if you've never done it before, but it's really only rough like the first day or two, and then you kind of just get used to it. And then also, as far as just your eating habits, because most of us, we all grew up, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and man, they used to tell us eat like a king in the morning, and then and then by the time dinner comes around, you don't eat.
King, Prince, Pauper.
There you go.
That's what it was.
King, Prince, Pauper. And really, that's kind of backwards. Like, because if you ate like super heavy in the morning, like, I don't know, man. I don't feel like that's the best way to start your day, but
Well, and it depends on what you're eating, because food.
Or I guess it depends on what you're
Yeah,
eating.
food affects blood sugar. It affects insulin, inflammation, hormones, gut bacteria, neurotransmitters, and your energy. And a calorie from a sweet potato and a calorie from a packaged snack do not behave the same way in the body. So,
Not all calories are created equal.
absolutely. And not all carbs are created equal. And
Not all fats are
not all
created
fat.
equal.
So we have all these myths and all these things about particular food groups, and it's not the same across the board. It's not a big X in front of all of them. It depends on what you're having. Fiber is one of the clearest examples. High fiber intake is linked with lower body weight, lower cholesterol, and lower systolic blood pressure in trials, and lower rates of non-communicable disease in broader research. The gut microbiome turns food into chemical signals that affect immunity, metabolism, mood, and inflammation. And there's so much research out now. Just Google gut and brain, and it shows how there's a link to what's going on in your gut and what the signals that it's sending to your brain and how that plays. Oh, I feel foggy. Oh, I just don't feel good. Oh, I can't think clearly. Those things are linked to what's going on in your gut. Your body is not just a trash can with chakras. Chakras are electromagnetic little fields, wheels in the body,
Energy centers.
centers. And you can't just throw dead, dyed, deep fried chaos into it and expect divine downloads on demand and anything like that.
Whole living foods tend to feel higher frequency because they're fresh, water rich, mineral rich, fiber rich, and closer to their natural state. Processed foods tend to feel more low vibration because it's stripped, preserved, altered, and often designed for shelf life instead of life force. And that's why you have preservatives are such a common thing in like all of the food almost that you find at the grocery store.
And preservatives are endocrine disruptors. And I'll tell you, so there's this app, it's called Yuka app, YUKA. And it's an app that you can scan the barcode on food or products that you use on your body, and it will pull up all of the hazardous, all the additives, all the chemical additives that are in that food, and breaks it down by high risk, low risk, or not risky at all, or beneficial. And
it's a scale from 0 to 100, and it shows you, and then so it's the chemicals and preservatives and additives, but it's also like sodium, fat. It's everything about that. The things that maybe you should be on your radar about that food.
And so he mentioned, that some foods are higher vibrating. Everything has a frequency and a vibration. And if you think whole living foods like fruit and vegetables, they will have a higher frequency, which in turn affects your body in that way. It will maintain or raise your vibration versus foods like meat, which is dead flesh and has no life left in it. Out of this book, it's called The Wisdom Book, and there's a picture. It's a picture of a slice of meat and a picture of an apple. And this is Kirlian photography, which allows you to capture energetic fields. And among earthly foods, fruits are notably recognized as highly electromagnetic, and the human body functions as an electromagnetic battery that requires charging, and fruits and veggies contain biophotons, which is essentially stored sunlight. And that's also why when we go outside and we step in the sun, we automatically feel brighter, more charged, more motivated. And when it's rainy and dull and the sun is out, or winter, when you are affected with SAD, seasonal affective disorder, the body is not being charged. And then what are you throwing into it that has none of that? The biophotons, the sunlight. So when we're eating fruits and veggies, we are essentially ingesting light, replenishing our bodies with the energy stored within biophotons from the sun. We're not saying go vegan or go vegetarian. We're just saying, like, pay attention. How much are you getting of this? How much are you getting of that? And we do have some statistics on the standard American diet. But I mentioned an endocrine disruptor, and so many of our processed foods are endocrine disruptors. And the endocrine system is a complex network of glands and organs that produce, store, and secrete hormones. So it's where our hormones are the most active. It's what controls that. And it's working alongside the nervous system. It acts as the body's primary communication network. So these chemical messengers travel through the bloodstream to regulate metabolism, growth, reproduction, sleep, mood, and tissue function. Some of the major glands and organs within the endocrine system: hypothalamus, which is located in the brain, and that links the nervous system to the endocrine system and controls the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, known as the master gland, regulates other endocrine glands and controls growth and water balance. The pineal gland regulates sleep-wake cycle by producing melatonin. Thyroid gland, located in the neck, produces hormones that control metabolism, energy, and heart rate. And pancreas maintains the body's blood sugar levels by producing insulin and glucagon. The gonads, ovaries in females and testes in males, responsible for reproduction and the development of secondary sex characteristics. So that's not even all of them, but those major things, you have something wrong with your thyroid. You have something wrong with your pancreas. You have, all these different things, or your hormones are out of whack. As I mentioned, so many things have endocrine disruptors, whether it be a preservative in your food or preservative in your body care, your shampoo, your cosmetics. And so, it's just a minute amount in this, or, this energy drink just has a small amount. And actually, certain energy drinks have like 6 hazardous chemicals. So if you're pounding those daily, and then all the food that you eat also has those, doesn't it stand to reason that your endocrine system will be disrupted, which means all of those other areas of the body are being disrupted, which then those are linked to many other things. And Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." And so just be mindful of what you're putting in the body.
We're going to be listing off a lot of stuff for you to look out for. So we'll go into, as the episode goes on, we'll go into all the things that, like, the preservatives and additives and things that you should look out for. And we'll kind of explain what they are, what they do, and also, the negative effects that they have. Also, that many energy drinks in a day, that's also an extremely high amount of caffeine. Like, that's just, you're going to have a heart attack.
Well, and that's the thing. And then it's like, I was genetically predisposed to heart attacks, or genetically predisposed to obesity, or to diabetes. I can't not
to
say
me,
diabetes.
whenever I hear that, and I understand that in certain cases with certain issues or diseases that, okay, you might be genetically predisposed, maybe. But overall, my personal opinion, I think a lot of people lean on that a little bit. Not everybody, but I feel like a lot of people lean on,
Well,
I'm
they're
just,
taught.
my dad did, or my mom did, and her mom did. And actually, there's a lot of things that, like, for example, diabetes, type 1 diabetes, the one you're like born with or you get at a young age, has nothing to do with genetics. Like, it doesn't matter whether you have history of that or not. Most diabetics that are type 1 do not have like type 1 diabetics in their immediate family.
And the majority of diabetics are type 2, which
Yeah,
can be
95%,
controlled by diet.
95%, 90 to 95% of diabetes diagnoses are type 2, which is that's the diabetes that you develop through poor diet or lifestyle choices. Type 1 is the kind you're basically born with. That's only
Alcohol
like 5%.
plays a factor into that as well.
Yep, big time.
But with the genetics, I heard a doctor say that with genetics, it can make you more susceptible to those things. But given the right environment in your body, given the right minerals, vitamins, energy, fuel with what you eat, it does not mean you're doomed to have the same thing that your mother or father or grandmother or father had.
No, you can break the
You
cycle.
can break the cycle. And
It's
your
my favorite Stained album.
your DNA can be almost essentially like reorganized with the choices you make if you're conscious of them.
Even RFK, has said a bunch of times, the director of, the Department of Health and Human Services, or secretary, has said over and over again, even just like recently, that, I'm just using him as a recent example, but like most cases of diabetes, especially type 2, if not almost all of them, can be reversed through diet and exercise alone.
I mean, Dr. Sebi,
Mm-hmm.
he believes that the majority of illnesses, including cancer and diabetes, are from an overproduction of mucus, which comes from a lot of inflammation in the body. And he says that with an alkaline diet, so that the body's not too acidic, and the acidic foods are your meat, your dairy, your processed sugars. Alkaline foods are your fruits, veggies, herbs, grains, nuts and seeds, and the like.
All right, let's talk about the standard American diet, or modern standard American diet. It's very convenient, very addictive, and very inflammatory.
And inflammation causes a myriad of unwanted dis-ease in the body.
Mm-hmm. The modern diet is definitely not neutral. It is very much so engineered. Ultra processed foods are designed to be cheap, hyper palatable, shelf stable, and addictive. All of these things.
And I mean, sugar, for instance. Donuts are one of my weaknesses in the sugar department and like dessert world, which how donuts ever became a breakfast food, I will not know.
I mean, that's the same thing with all the cereal that's out there too. It's just a bowl of sugar.
But I do like fried dough.
Man,
and I tried to, but any sugar.
So
but
good.
If I go without sugar for an extended amount of time, which I like to do as often as possible, because I notice a difference in my skin. I notice a difference in my weight. I notice a difference in my energy levels. I notice a difference in my clarity, just overall. And when I go ahead and fall off that wagon, it is very quickly back into that, now I need a little sweet treat after dinner. And I'm eating these dark chocolate covered almonds, so they're probably okay for me. But then I look and it's like, there's additives. And going back to, the standard American diet and that Yucca app, and
I think it's yucca, because yucca that's a plant,
right,
isn't
which
it?
stands to reason.
YUCCA.
Well, this is why. Okay, so Yucca.
I might be wrong, but I think it's yucca.
Well, I started pulling out a few things out of our fridge, and because we had watched this documentary, Eating You Alive, and we've watched a lot of food documentaries, which we're going to give you a little roundabout on, but I pulled out our ranch dressing, which obviously, and that had like 6 hazardous ingredients, endocrine disruptors. And I'm like, okay, I already knew this, but like it wasn't in the forefront of my mind. So I'm like, we can't even finish this. And then my dressing, which I thought was healthy because it was vinaigrette, oil based, healthy oils and fats, also had additive ingredients. And it was just like, okay, just like disheartening. And then
it was very disheartening.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, and it's so easy. Shake up vinegar and oil, add some spices and,
some lemon juice.
Just whatever but it's just that little extra step of consciousness, being aware and mindful and saying, okay, maybe I have nothing else right now, so I'll use this for tonight. And then from here on out, I'm switching it up. But like, what about some of the statistics?
So just some factoids about the standard modern American diet. A NIH controlled, which the NIH is the National Institutes of Health. You'll hear us refer to that a few times in today's episode. A NIH controlled feeding study found that when people ate an ultra-processed diet, they consumed about 500 more calories per day and gained weight compared with when they ate a minimally processed diet, even though the meals were matched for presented calories, sugar, sodium, fat, fiber, and all the macronutrients. So same matched for the same calories basically, and sugar and fat and sodium and all that stuff. But one was ultra processed, one was minimal processing. And 500 more calories with the ultra processed plus weight gain. So there's just a simple difference right there in just a physical gaining weight and more calories.
Well, because again, with that processed, you're getting those chemicals that are endocrine disruptors, and then those are playing a part in your thyroid, in all your hormones,
which then affects
your weight. So if
ripple effects throughout your body,
you'll probably hear that multiple times because it is all connected.
It is,
and you actually are what you eat.
Right. And we've talked about that in another episode about
who really heals you. That episode.
Who really heals you. That episode about how doctors, like most of them, the first question they should be asking if you come to them with an issue is, what does your diet look like? And we've learned over and over again from different documentaries, from things we've read, from doctors,
medical journals,
clients that are doctors and or in the medical field or nurses or whatever.
Or patients.
And they've all said the same thing. We get little to no education on nutrition or training on nutrition when they're in medical school. Some of them don't get any at all. Like, I guess it depends on where you're going to school, but that's just insane to me that should be the first thing that's asked. And I guarantee you, most of the time, issues are going to stem back to something that you're putting into your body. Maybe it's not food. It might be like, alcohol or tobacco or something like that. But lifestyle choices, what you're putting into your body.
And I mean, there's a common misconception that just because something is labeled healthy or quote low fat, or
Even a lot of stuff that's labeled organic.
you have to still look at the ingredients. Like that's just, if you take nothing else away from this, look at the ingredients list.
And the longer that ingredient list is, the worse
The
it is for you, most
scarier
likely.
that it is.
Yeah. So another study and summary from the NIH and also the NHLBI, which is the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, which is part of the NIH, noted that high ultra-processed food consumption has been linked to increased risk of heart disease and stroke. The study summarized included a U.S. cohort of more than 200,000 participants and a meta-analysis involving about 1.2 million people. So it also a 2024 umbrella review in BMJ, which BMJ is a company or corporation that specializes in case studies for various different industries. They found that greater exposure to ultra-processed foods was associated with higher risk of adverse health outcomes, especially cardiometabolic outcomes, common mental disorders, and mortality. So those are just some small little factoids coming from officials within our government about, just ultra-processed food. A lot of the processed food is essentially pre-digested by whoever made it. So the fibers are removed, the starch is refined, they add things to amplify the flavors, milk, the whole pasteurization process. That I understand the quote unquote reasoning behind it. I get it. It's, easily contaminated, can be easily contaminated with, fecal matter and bacteria and all that kind of stuff. So I understand, the reasoning behind it. But when they do that, they're stripping it of everything. When they do that, they're killing all the good stuff with the bad stuff. And then that's why you see on a lot of your milk cartons and jugs that it's calcium enriched and mineral enriched.
Yeah, they're adding that stuff back in.
They have to add it back in.
Don't even get me started on cow's milk. That's actually made for cows and what's in that, and just
we'll go more into some
dairy in general,
some dairy things later. But all these processed foods, the other thing, the addictive part of it too. And I mean, it can be any kind of processed food. It does not have to be like, oh, I'm addicted to ice cream. I mean, you could be addicted to lunch meat, or Doritos or
boxed
whatever
mac and cheese.
But because of what they add into it, not only does it extend shelf life, but it's addictive. So it hits the brain's reward system super hard.
And we learned with that, like, okay, cheese, for instance. And I am
highly addicting.
I am a cheese lover. It's the glue that holds recipes together. I learned from the Goldbergs. But casein protein breaks apart in the human digestive system and turns into casomorphins, which is a morphine-like compound that attaches to the same receptors that heroin attaches to. So it's not as strong, but it is strong enough to keep you coming back. And, just last night, like I've been reminding myself of all the things we know and watching, these documentaries. And I still was like, oh, let me put my feta cheese in my black bean soup because feta makes it better. And it's like, well, actually, it would probably be better without it. And would I actually really miss it? So, as I said, but, they say everything in moderation. I sometimes agree with that. I think it depends on what it is. I think that that's a good rule of thumb to live by. But if certain things can be completely eliminated, all the better for the body. And I think we tend to, I heard it said that it was by a nutritionist, and she said, I've come to see aging as a like compiled abuse to the body, like just year after year after year of the same behaviors and eating habits and, feeding it, that it could shift how we age. And instead of saying, ooh, it's hell getting old, we would be saying it's a blessing in every way to age another day. That's a little tidbit I came up with instead of saying it's hell getting old.
And for those of you who are thinking about money, because vegetarian, vegan, and we're also not telling any
organic eating in general.
Organic eating. I don't mean just, we're not saying that anybody has to be a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever. That's neither here nor there. But organic
you and
food,
your
right? The organic food does not have to always be, or at the very least, if you're trying to do like, again, a vegetarian diet, does not always have to be expensive. The processed foods, they are usually cheap in comparison to better foods, but they're cheap up front. They're expensive later on because of the issues they can cause: inflammation, fatigue, medication. Depend if you have to end up going to the doctor because you start having issues, and then you have to get on medication, and then now you're on this thing for either for an extended period of time or the rest of your life. And it ends up being,
and then
expensive later on.
Side effects
on the back
with
end,
those medications,
which then causes
and
other
so we're
issues.
not even talking about expensive, financially, but with what it does for your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are options for, you can get, it's a few cents more to get organic beans
Mm-hmm.
and rice. And I mean, the sky is the limit on what you can do with rice and beans and throwing veggies
Truly.
in. And you can even utilize some of that for, rice at Thai Divine. They do that sticky rice with fruit. And
oh man,
that's
dude,
so
you
good.
can do so many things, and you can buy
Also,
in bulk too. By the way, dry rice, dry beans. You can buy, what was it, 25-pound bag of, was it? I think beans is like $25. A big old bag of rice from Costco or something like that is what, maybe $20 or something. I don't know. Anywho, let's Jessica, tell us about some more low vibrating foods. Let's go more into some of the more specifics about some of the processed foods and the more low vibrating food.
Well, the strongest evidence is against processed meat and heavy intake of red meat, especially in the context of low fiber, low plant, ultra processed diets. So, I know a few people who are strictly meat and potatoes kind of people, that they don't like veggies. And where are you getting the energy, I guess, from the foods? So the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified processed meat as carcinogenic, and that is for humans. And red meat is also a carcinogen. And the strongest evidence is around colorectal cancer.
That's how my grandpa died.
The American Cancer Society says processed meat contains nitrates and nitrites that can damage DNA.
Those are preservatives.
Yes.
You'll see those on like everything
And
that you buy, basically.
Those preservatives in cured and processed meats are to prevent bacterial growth and maintain color, which, ew. This is just me personally, ew. You're not going to want to go pick up a piece of meat that's turned gray because it's been sitting there. So they utilize these preservatives to keep that meat nice and pink for you and look like a healthy chunk of meat. And now there are you can go get ethically sourced meat. You can get something straight from the farm, but as it stands, like as a general rule, the meat that's sitting out there. So processed meat, bacon, hot dog, sausage, deli meats, you're making your turkey sandwich for lunch. The World Health Organization classified these as a group 1 carcinogen. And that is the same category as cigarettes, asbestos, and plutonium.
Yep, you heard that right. Plutonium, just like from Back to the Future.
So it's just like a little bit, and I used to give the kids lunch meat sandwiches, and I was like, oh, I'm buying uncured turkey meat. And so, and it doesn't have any nitrates in it, but it is still processed. And I'm like, that is basically like me smoking cigarettes in their presence and them getting secondhand smoke, I feel like. So
one of the documentaries we watched had a little, when they were talking about the processed meats being in the classified as a group 1 carcinogen, the little video clips it showed was a mom with her kids, and they were in the kitchen, and her frying pan, she was frying something up, but it was cigarettes in the frying pan, and then giving them to the kids.
Yeah. And so
if you're gonna
red meat, let me just talk about red meat is a group 2 carcinogen. And these studies have been around for like 50 years plus. But none of this info is on the American Cancer Society website. So these are carcinogens, which mean they can lead to cancer. And we're talking your breakfast meats, your 4th of July hot dogs, your camping hot dogs. And you can buy, like all beef. I don't know. I haven't looked at that in a while, but I mean, we're talking about those causing cancer, and this info is not even on there. But then, what is on there? Food meal ideas that include processed and red meats. And I mean, that's just a little sus in my opinion. Like, why are we not including some of these studies that the WHO have found? Meat-heavy diets often crowd out fiber-rich plant foods. And we're not saying that all meat bad, all plants good. I mean, there's research, but I will tell you, there's research. You can literally find research to back whatever you want to back. Like you can find, we have gone back and forth with, well, I saw this study where these people only ate meat for a few months and all of these diseases went away. Well, here's the thing. What did they eliminate? They still eliminated processed foods. And the meat that they were eating was not ultra processed meat. It was
typically like steak and potatoes or steak and eggs or something like that.
And then I guarantee if you looked further on, like what it does to your testosterone, what it does to the inflammation in your body. And you put a plant-based diet next to a soul like meat diet. And we'll go over some misconceptions later, but I just have to say it now that so many people, where am I going to get my protein if I don't eat meat? But like, where do you think cows get their protein? Like it comes in plants.
The largest animals on the planet are vegetarians. So gorillas, giraffes, elephants, certain whales.
And how do you think their muscles are growing? I mean, can be held up. They're giant frames.
Gorillas are big old boys, man, and they don't eat meat at all.
And we're saying, again, what is the overall pattern? What's the quality? What is the dose? What is it replacing?
Right. Balance. And if you're going to eat, if you're going to eat meat, just make sure you're balancing it out with, other good things.
And when people, when we say meat as low vibration, like what we're asking is what kind of life force energy is in this food. And I don't think one person could say in this dead flesh that there is an ounce of life force energy left in it. And that's just something that we're bringing to the table today, is that your foods have or should have some kind of life force energy. Just like that should be a low man on the totem pole as far as what to include in this dish. And I know a lot of events and activities are based around food. And man, when you we watch this documentary, if you can't tell, we're like big documentary fans. Watch this documentary called Christspiracy, and that is going on about the information and essentially almost like biblical proof that Christ was a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
And people get angry when you talk about taking their meat away. They get mad. But the thing is like, it has become our system has become based around business and a lot of the agriculture industry. And so it's just like, again, what is your food bringing to your body? What messages is it sending? Another thing with meat and our systems, I'm going to read this from the Book of Wisdom real quick for you. Carnivores such as tigers and lions typically have shorter intestinal lengths ranging from 3 to 7 feet. In contrast, humans possess intestines that extend to approximately 15 feet in length. This notable difference suggests that unlike carnivores reliant on flesh consumption, humans exhibit physiological features indicative of a plant-based diet. Both our dental structure and intestinal length align with the characteristics of herbivores, emphasizing our anatomical adaptation for consuming plants, fruits, and vegetables. And if you think about it, okay, so the lion's intestines are 3 to 7 feet. That meat, that flesh is going to process through there a lot quicker. Ours are 12 to 15 feet. So you've got dead flesh processing through your body stuck for a lot longer than 3 to 7 feet. So, and then what is that doing to your gut, to your cells, to your endocrine system? So you can ask yourself, is it fresh, clean, ethically sourced, balanced with plants? Or is it processed, preserved, smoked, fried, dyed, and wrapped in plastic, kind of like an edible haunted house?
Man, I love smoked foods, though. Good Lord.
I remember when I kept feeling pulled to quit eating meat a while ago, years now. I realized it's been like almost 10 years, maybe 8.
Sure, it's been that
8
long?
for sure. 8 years for sure. That I quit eating meat. But I think it's even closer because it was a couple years after we got together, but I had already quit by the time we got married. So we've been married 10 years.
Dang.
I know.
Time flies.
So I remember my stepdad, Randy, his pulled pork, cleans it really well.
He's a smoke master.
And I had quit eating meat. And then you got some from him, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna eat a bite. And I just it tasted at that point to me, it tasted like animal. I know it's animal, but like
it is animal.
And so here's another thing too, is that I have read a book on eating for your blood type, and there's a doctor that did a bunch of research on that. And if you really think about it, like we have different blood types, it stands to reason that different foods and what they provide act differently for our bodies. So I had kind of intuitively, I was being prompted to quit eating meat. And then I read the book Nutrition for Intuition, saw, okay, that it can help raise your vibration because meat is a dead thing and it lowers your vibe a little bit. Then I got into the blood type diet, and it says I'm A positive, but it doesn't matter. It's like A positive, A negative. It's just all for A blood types, all for B blood types, all for O. It said that red meat and pork are detrimental for A blood types. Fish is beneficial and poultry is neutral. And that is kind of how I eliminated it. I first eliminated red meat. I just never really loved red meat from the get-go. Like, I was never a big fan. And then, like, your big honkin' steak did not speak to me like it does to you. I then realized I was like, my intuition was kicking in and telling me, like, these things aren't really that beneficial for your body, and you're not going to function at your highest level if you're not eating for how your body is made. And so I kind of do tend to stick to, and even still within that framework, there are some things like sauerkraut is supposedly not good for my blood type, but I love sauerkraut, and I'm like, oh, but it's good for your gut and with the fermentation. And so sometimes I'll eat a forkful of sauerkraut, but again, moderation. I don't think it's going to make my blood curdle or anything like that. So let's talk about some foods that are kind of like poison to the body.
I'm just going to go through real quick and list off some foods and ingredients that essentially act like poison to the body. So not everything that's sold as food deserves that title.
The title food.
Yep. Some ingredients may be legal, but that doesn't automatically mean they're optimal for human health. You guys would also, we're not going to go into this at all, but you would be flabbergasted completely to see the what is allowed in our foods, like at a lot of like restaurants and stuff, like the amount of fecal matter, rat poison, literally, rat fecal matter, all that kind of stuff. They allow a certain amount. There's a certain threshold that's allowed within a lot of the food. And that's just one example. It's crazy when you look at it into that way. But anyways, so some of the ingredients to call out here. Number one, added sugars. Sugar is one of the big drivers of a lot of health issues and or disease. Sugar is food for cancer, by the way. I'm not saying that you can't have sugar, that you should completely cut it out. Again, this comes down to balance. This comes down to, balance.
Well, and you can make things that are made with
sugar,
which isn't white processed sugar.
Sugar itself is not bad. Just like
your body
there's plenty of other things that are not bad by themselves. It's the quality of that sugar. So added sugars, especially sugar sweetened beverages,
like your sodas,
candy, your sweetened cereals, which I brought up earlier, which is like all this, unless you're eating like unflavored Cheerios or like, unflavored wheat, whatever, you're going to be eating a bunch of basically a bowl of sugar. Desserts, a lot of sauces. You think that you think sugar and you think desserts, candy, all those kinds of things. There is so much added sugar. Look, go to your fridge right now, pull out that bottle of ketchup and tell me how much sugar is in it. Ketchup it's not even, there's probably not even tomato on the list of ingredients for ketchup. But like, there's so many sauces that have added sugar. So a lot of people don't think about that, but there is. So that's going to be the first one, And I can tell you right now,
Corn syrup.
if you just, corn syrup,
pretty
high
sure-
fructose corn syrup is like corn syrup on steroids.
I'm pretty sure that's one of the first main ingredients in ketchup.
Yeah, high fructose corn syrup, which we will get
Barbecue
into this.
sauce.
We will get into this later more about the difference in ingredients between American products and like European products, and that's going to be one of them. There's a lot of places in the world that do not allow corn syrup and stuff. So you'll pull out an item, a food product that's made here or sold here, and it'll say like high fructose corn syrup, and then you have one that's sold somewhere else in the world and it says sugar. So added sugar is the first big one. And if you cut out sugar sweetened beverages, so soda and all that stuff, just doing that, you'll see results. You'll feel results. You'll see results. Even if you don't do all the other stuff we're talking about immediately, start off with cutting out soda. I'm telling you, especially if you drink it all the time, I mean all soda. I don't mean, I'm going to switch to diet. Diet's worse for you.
Diet soda has your artificial sweeteners, which are also carcinogens.
Exactly. So added sugars is going to be the number one ingredient I'm calling out here. Next one would be refined grains. So white flour, a lot of different types of breads, pastries, crackers, processed cereals. There's your cereal again. But we're not saying you can't eat bread, but just be mindful of the bread that you're buying. I do not suggest just buying cheap white bread. That is probably one of the most processed.
If you can't get away from white bread, hit
Get
up your local baker or
buy Dave's.
Dave's Killer Bread is good, but I was going to say there are so many people making sourdough.
Oh, sourdough's, that's like the best bread for you.
If you get on Facebook, say who's making sourdough bread and wants to sell me a loaf, I guarantee you'll have some peeps.
Yep.
I mean, you can also buy it, but why not support local?
So be mindful with your refined grains. Grains are good, but your refined and processed ones like white bread and a lot of your pastries, crackers, stuff like that, that's what's going to cause inflammation. It's going to cause issues, especially if you're like gluten intolerant, or have issues like that. Be mindful. These are more ingredients in foods that are essentially acting like poison to the body. Next one's going to be industrial trans fats. You'll hear that term trans fat a lot. That one is the big villain next to sugar, in my opinion. Artificial trans fats are strongly linked with cardiovascular harm, and the FDA has taken action against partially hydrogenated oils, though processed foods still deserve label scrutiny. So trans fats, it's going to be listed as that. It's going to be listed as a type of trans fat when you're looking at the ingredients, so keep an eye out for those. Artificial dyes, that is all over our foods. And just recently they banned FD&C red number 3 is a big example. The FDA just revoked authorization for red number 3 in food and ingested drugs just last year in 2025, citing the Delaney clause after data showed that cancer in male rats when they would give this food dye to rats. Food manufacturers have until 2027 to reformulate, and then ingested drugs have until 2028 to reformulate to replace that dye. So artificial dyes, the other one too, is it yellow 5?
There's a lot of them, and that's why it's interesting to me that they're just only starting with one. When there's so many other.
Right, but that's just a recent example. It because that one was just recently banned.
Right, and I get that, but why are we only banning one at a time? And you can't tell me that there's not already research that all of these things, there's research that it plays a role in the
ADHD,
the severity of autism.
And autism.
It plays a role in, ADHD, ADD. I mean, that's another thing that I mean, you can get on and I guarantee get on and type in nutrition or diet and nutrition and whatever ailment you or your loved one suffers from, and you will find how they are correlated. Chronic illness, the food, your diet plays a massive role in the chronic illness that you are carrying around right now. And it is becoming more and more well known, that it does play a role. And more people are stepping up saying, I don't want these chemicals in my food. And things are being done, but it is a slow process. And the more of us that stand up and say, we want whole, fresh foods, it's been said to like shop the perimeter of the grocery store where you're, and not the aisles as much, because that's where all your processed shelf things, where they have the ingredients to keep them shelf stable and keep the color in them. And I don't want a chemical to maintain the color of something. If it's going to turn colors, then that's my alert to not eat it anymore. And I don't want something to preserve the life of it. But I digress.
A few more to watch out for. Brominated vegetable oil, or BVO. The FDA did revoke authorization for that in food 2 years ago. They stated that there was no longer a reasonable certainty of no harm from continued use. So thankfully that has been...
Which means they found out a lot of shit.
Out. Yeah.
They're like, there's no certainty of no harm, so let's just quit that one.
Potassium bromate, that is used in certain baked goods. That has been banned or restricted in many places and targeted by state-level U.S. food additive laws. So they, like we said, they are starting to go after a few of these things and starting to phase them out. Propylparaben, that's a preservative that was recently included in California's additive ban. California, like in the last couple of years, has banned a bunch of additives and stuff in their state. One good thing that state's doing. Titanium dioxide. The European Commission banned titanium dioxide. It's also known as E171 as a food additive in 2022 after the EFSA raised safety concerns, including inability to rule out genotoxicity. So that stuff affects you at a genetic level. Genotoxicity. Crazy.
Which, at that point, are you passing that down?
Right.
Your genetics.
If you're at a DNA level, yeah. A good example, well, we've kind of listed all these off, but a good example of a recent policy change. California's Food Safety Act banned brominated vegetable oil, potassium bromate, propylparaben, and red dye number 3 in foods sold in California beginning January 1 of 2027. So, and most likely other states are going to start to follow, and then it'll be followed on a federal level. So very good to see that kind of momentum happening within the food industry.
But the question isn't only, is this allowed, but why was this allowed for so long?
Money.
So as you brought up earlier, we talked about, US versus Europe, and why are our ingredients different?
Yep. You don't need to go all the way over to Europe to try this out. You could just Google it. But if you happen to find yourself in a European country, go look at something that they sell in both in their country, or like buy something and bring it back here and then compare it to the same exact product here. First off, the first thing you'll notice, that list is much longer here. The list is much longer here, and you'll notice certain differences where, like I said, a lot of times we'll have like high fructose corn syrup in something and they'll just have sugar. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that theirs is like a ton better. It's just slightly better because the ingredient list isn't that long and they don't have nearly as many, a lot more preservatives and additives and things like that are banned in Europe than they are here.
And they don't even allow Pop-Tarts to be sold there because of the
Mhm.
laundry list of ingredients
Yep.
in that in there. I mean, even their body products, so their why can't I think of what that's called? I keep saying body products, but what's the cosmetics, personal care, I guess, personal care items,
personal hygiene
hygiene
products.
anything you put on your body, which, you know what? I'm going to call out Bath and Body Works. I used to get it as gifts a lot, and I would also buy it. And I used the Yuka app to check that, and the hazardous ingredients and endocrine disruptors that are in that.
Oof.
And your skin is the biggest organ of your body. So you're slathering
anything you put on
that
it is
on
going right into your bloodstream.
Right into your bloodstream. And so in Europe, there's a lot of things that they don't allow. They don't allow certain things in their hair color, in their shampoos, in their cosmetics, across the board. And I feel like Europe seems to ask, can you prove this is safe? And America asks, can you prove this is dangerous enough to stop selling? How many years does it take for them to prove that something is hazardous to us? Or it's already known, but through legal loopholes and verbiage, we're misconstrued, we're led astray.
Mhm.
And, so, I mean, even down to the food pyramid.
Yep. The food pyramid, when I brought this up when we were talking about doing this episode, it was upside down. It's been upside down for as long as I can remember. They've only recently started like redoing the food pyramid in a better way. So the food pyramid was upside down literally and symbolically. The old food guide pyramid trained generations of us. I remember it growing up in health class and everything and seeing it. It trained generations to build the base of their diet on grains, bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, while fats were demonized. Like we said earlier, not all fat is created equal. Your body needs fat. It just depends on the type of fat. You got unsaturated, you've got saturated, you've got all different kinds of fats. It is not all bad for you. Your body needs fat. Many critics argue that fueled carb-heavy, low-fat, ultra-processed eating patterns is because of this food guide pyramid that they've trained us on for years. But it was criticized for overemphasizing refined carbs and was replaced in 2005 by what they called My Pyramid, and then later they called it My Plate. Harvard's Healthy Eating Plate recommends vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy proteins, healthy oils, and limiting refined grains, red meat, processed meat, sugary drinks, and processed foods. Harvard explicitly says that its healthy eating plate is not influenced by food industry or agriculture policy, unlike federal guidance that can be shaped by political and agricultural pressures. So basically they said, we're not being paid to say what we're saying right now because federal guidance is absolutely shaped by political and agricultural pressures, by big food, big pharma, big, whatever. That's why lobbyists exist for all different industries. They spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars every year to basically pay off our various different politicians, government entities to push what they're wanting to push, So the food pyramid was upside down. All right. They had all of the grains and all that kind of stuff, all, as what you should be eating the most of, and the stuff you should actually be eating more of was at the top, you know, as far as like the small amounts of what you should be eating. Was the food pyramid really built for human health? Or did it have more to do with money, and was it built around agriculture, industry, politics, shelf-stable products, all that kind of stuff? So the old message, which, like we said, things are starting to change. The old message was basically fat is bad, carbs are good. But the more accurate message is industrial trans fats are bad. Excess saturated fat needs to be limited. Whole food unsaturated fats are beneficial. Refined carbs and added sugar are a major problem. And whole food carbs with fiber, very different story, which is good. You want carbs also, that's another lie, is we were told for years that carbs are the enemy. And that's not true. Your body needs carbohydrates. Your body, just like your body needs fat, your body needs cholesterol. But with all of those things, it's what kind are you taking in? What kind of fat? What kind of cholesterol? How much?
And you know, the brain is made of cholesterol.
Yeah,
60%.
the brain is mostly cholesterol, more than half cholesterol. And yet they tried to demonize cholesterol for years. And
you do have to be careful because it can, in certain instances, cause issue. And then that's a whole nother thing, you know, like statins and high cholesterol and trying to get people's cholesterol down. And, you know, there's a lot of doctors out there that are saying the absolute risk that prevents is very minimal compared to just the relative risk. And again, cholesterol is something that you can curb with your diet. There are so many studies out there that show that, you know, getting your LDL down with the proper diet. And
which LDL cholesterol, that's low density lipoprotein. It's fat and protein that carries cholesterol through your bloodstream. So you'll hear LDL a lot in health conversations. The LDL cholesterol, my LDL levels. So just a little factoid, so you know what that is.
Well, aside from that, I mean, there's so many different myths. I feel like it was maybe its studies were done and they were like, oh, this is bad. And they were like, no, actually, that's not bad. But then they're like, oh, this is good. Oh, actually, that's not good. And it's more confusing than anything. How do we eat?
Confusion is their game.
Confusion is the game. If you don't know what, then you just do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go over some
myths we were just talking about, the stuff we've been told for decades.
Ahoy, matey. Has your style ship sailed? Are you looking for direction? Point your sails toward High Level Design Salon and Barbershop in Pendleton, Indiana. Whether you're looking for a custom color or a swashbuckling fade, Zach and Jessica will help you find your treasure. For booking info, visit highlevel444.com. I wish you fair winds and following seas. Farewell, matey.
So, myth number 1, all fat is bad. That is false. Healthy fats from nuts, seeds, avocados, some oils, and some fish can support heart and metabolic health. Myth 2, low fat automatically means healthy. Oh, that is by far. I learned that early on. That is false. Many low-fat foods are loaded with sugar, starches, gums, and additives. Myth 3, cholesterol in food is the only thing that matters. That's oversimplified. The CDC says the relationship is complicated, but foods high in cholesterol are often high in saturated fat, and saturated fats can raise cholesterol numbers.
Mm-hmm.
meat is the only way to get protein. As we said earlier, that is false. Beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, nuts, seeds, Greek yogurt, eggs, fish, and high protein whole food combinations can contribute protein depending on your dietary preference. I'm on a bit of a struggle with Greek yogurt because it being dairy and me trying to eliminate that because I definitely notice a difference, but I love the protein in it. That's why I've been kind of testing out non-dairy forms of yogurt. Coconut milk yogurt's pretty good.
I actually tried it. It's really good.
The coconut yogurt.
Yeah, it's.
I know. I
Like,
went
I think it
into
tastes
it
better than
and I was
regular
like,
yogurt.
I noticed a bunch of it was gone, and I was like, "Did you my yogurt?" He's like, "I tried a bite."
No, I said I tried a bite of the other one because you had two of them in there. And I said I tried a bite of the other one. I believe I
The
never
harmless
had that one.
harvest.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, but it's actually really good.
I mean, you can eat my yogurt is your yogurt.
Oh, thank you.
But just let me know. Like, oh, you're low on your yogurt. So we went from fearing butter to eating a sleeve of fat-free cookies and called that progress. That's what we were told. And I've heard it said that the 90s were a nutritional crime scene.
Dude,
and I kind of feel that. Like when I think about what I came home and
would eat
after school and then for dinner. And my mom always she provided what was a well-balanced diet, from her, what she knew, and there was a meat, there was a veggie, and there was a starch or a carb. I mean, I would come home and eat some ice cream, and it was cotton candy flavored ice cream with these little bits in it. I remember so perfectly. And then I would also eat a frozen chimichanga. That was my after school snack. And then, like I didn't really learn what clean eating was until I'm going to be real and honest. I had a twisted relationship with food there for a while, as I went through puberty and my body changed, and then comments were made about my body at different times from important people in my life. And I ended up developing an eating disorder for a while when I was college age. And then I learned about clean eating and what food does for the body. And I healed from that. I wanted to heal from that. And then I changed my relationship with food. There can be, like we've talked about multiple times, addictive things. And that might be that there's something missing inside of you, or there's been a trauma that you've gone through, and food is that comfort source. You want to make changes, but because of the addictive properties and some of those things, you can go listen to episode 8 when we talk about addiction, and that, it's not just about substances, and that there's neural pathways that develop regarding addiction. So those things can be shifted, and your relationship with food can be changed. And maybe it's just a matter of health. I think that it is such a prevalent part. I mean, as we said, are you eating for fun or are you eating for fuel? What is that fuel communicating to the body? And sometimes it is fun to eat tasty things, but if that is what your fun is based off of, there are so many other fun things in life than just food. I think a lot of people do get angry when you try to tell them to either eliminate or go. I mean, I've experienced it myself. And then through many a documentary watching, people's reactions on uh, switching it up. And it seems so difficult, but the more you do it, and you start small, first add things in before you eliminate things. It makes it easier. Add in those quality products before you completely remove something that, cold turkey.
Pun intended.
Unintended. It is very interesting when you look at the correlation between chronic illness and our diet and nutrition and what we're putting in, and that many of the things that we're eating, including some of the veggies, because our soil's been stripped of a lot of its nutrients, and that's why there is a big pull for organic. But we are walking around, maybe you're carrying a little extra weight, but you are still malnourished because of the lack of proper nutrients that your body isn't getting. And so Zach, why don't you give us some of those juicy stats on what's going on in our world as far as chronic illness?
So the CDC says that poor nutrition and physical inactivity increases the risk of obesity, depression, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and certain cancers. Fewer than 1 in 10 children and adults eat recommended vegetables. Fewer than 1 means 0.
Right, they just can't say that.
I know. Fewer than 1 in 10 children and adults eat recommended vegetables. As many as 40%. The number is actually 40.3% as of 2023. 40.3% of adults and 20% of adolescents are obese. These are current numbers, and I also have another number pulled up because I was thinking about this earlier, and I looked up the information. The obesity rates within the United States have tripled in the last 60 years.
Man, and that is with more and more processed foods and fast foods.
Right. So do you know what the U.S. adult obesity rate in 1960? Do you know what it was? It was 13% of adults in the U.S. were obese.
Wow.
In 2020, as of 2023, that is now over 40. It's 40.3%, which is probably close to 45% at this point.
And
which is almost half of the country are classified as obese. Same thing with children. The number is a little bit different. In the 70s, it was 5% of childhood and teen ages 2 to 19. It was 5% were obese. Fast forward to 2023, that number is now 21%.
And the thing is that we are all for body positivity, for sure, and loving who you are as you are, but the risk factors are still there when your body is carrying around excess weight that is not your ideal weight, because the risk, I mean, it's innumerable, the chronic illnesses that develop from obesity.
And look at the obesity problem it's literally only gotten worse every year. Every time they do these surveys, the number gets higher and higher.
And so imagine that was 2023 and now we're in 2026.
Mm-hmm. And what pharmaceutical is got everybody in a chokehold right now? Ozempic
or
GLP-1 drugs,
GLP-1
but Ozempic
drugs
is just the big name. Ozempic and Wegovy, and there's a few other ones too. I have a lot of clients that are on it.
And there's no judgment coming from that,
No,
but
and that's
it
that's a
stands to reason that there's other statistics that show that obesity is an epidemic.
Mhm.
And then, like you said,
So
all
they'll-
of these
they're gonna-
drugs that they're pushing that have now been made more, that's been cheaper so that more people can get them. And where is the push for the proper
diet
nutrition?
and health.
And we're not talking fad diets either, you know?
No, just eating healthy.
Just eating.
Not any specific diet. And yeah, I think it was for a month's supply prior to just recently, it was like $1,500 a month and I'm just speaking about Ozempic. I'm sure the other ones were the same. And that's why you had a lot of Hollywood, like Cat Williams said, like 3 or 4 years ago, Ozempic has Hollywood in a chokehold right now. And now look, like it seems like everybody's on it, man. And
I mean, we've got
that went down from like over $1,000 a month to around $100 a month. That is a massive decrease, and they are making it more available to the public.
And if you look at the
And-
side effects of those said drugs, I mean, there's a lot of negative side effects, and
including stomach paralysis. You could paralyze your stomach, which would then can end up killing you.
and kidney issues,
Pancreas issues,
which
kidney issues, liver issues. It's going to
And
cause systemic issues.
diabetes is an issue with the pancreas.
That's a diabetes drug.
And then you're, I don't even want to
It's
get
crazy,
into it,
man,
but it's
but-
like you're taking something that could potentially damage something
Even-
further that's
even
already
further,
not
which
functioning.
which is then going to, oh, got to go to the doctor. Oh, now I got to get on this other pharmaceutical. And then, so big pharma, man, they, from a business standpoint, genius.
So speaking of diabetes, the CDC also reports that more than 38 million Americans have diabetes and another 98 million adults have pre-diabetes.
Mm-hmm. And the NIH research found that ultra-processed foods caused people to eat more and then gain weight in a controlled environment to add to that. Because food, we also have learned in our research that we've all been taught that diabetes happens because of sugar. It's not. It's because of sugar has something to do with it, but it has to do with fats and the bad fats, the bad cholesterols, the bad stuff that ends up clogging your arteries so that then the sugar doesn't go to where it needs to go when it gets ingested and into your system. So then that starts causing insulin issues and all that kind of stuff. So it's the ultra processed foods are causing people to eat more, which then means they're gaining more weight because of its addiction factor. And they are engineered. McDonald's has scientists. What do they call them? Flavor scientists or something like that? I can't remember the term. That their entire job is to make sure. That's why their burgers and their fries and everything are so consistent, no matter which one you go to across the world. Those
Not across the world, because they are different in
okay, in the United
the
States.
United
I'm sorry.
States.
But that's why it's so consistent, is because they have these flavor profile. They have all these chemicals they put in there to make it super consistent, but also addictive. And I also learned too, the reason why, side note, why McDonald's Coke is considered like the best tasting. Not only because they get their Coke machines get recalibrated very frequently, but they're the only one out of all the fast food joints that sell Coke. All of them are the Coke syrup that they use for the Coke. They are delivered in plastic bottles, plastic jugs to all of the other restaurants. McDonald's, they are sent to them in steel cans. so that they lose zero taste or anything like that. Just interesting thing I found the other day, even though I don't really drink much Coke at all. But if you do, everybody knows McDonald's has the best Coke. But I digress. Let's continue on. Dietary fiber research in the Lancet, which the Lancet is one of the larger, if not largest, peer review like medical journals. They found that people consuming higher fiber and whole grains had lower rates of non-communicable diseases, with benefits seen around 25 to 29 grams of fiber daily and possibly more. So chronic illness isn't a mystery. It's not always a mystery, I guess. Sometimes it's just a message that's been repeated for years until your body starts screaming that message. So first you'll start seeing little things, or maybe you don't see them at all. And then eventually your body's going to start screaming.
Compiles and it manifests physically into something
right
that you have to take a medication for, or hurry up and eliminate something out of your diet. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's connect that to the pharmaceutical end of this. Like we were already talking about that. Oh, now you're going to have to go see the doctor because you had this issue with this thing, and now you're going to be on pharmaceuticals and blah, 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 blah. So let's connect that real quick too, because at the end of the day, big food and big pharma are heavily connected. So let's make some of those connections.
Well, the point is that the food system creates disease patterns that the medical system then manages, often with medication. Just like, I mean, we're talking about the rise in obesity, and then the answer to that is all these weight loss drugs. And we were actually watching a commercial because I refuse to pay Netflix even more full price to have no commercials. I can handle them. But then you're looking at like this weight loss drug, and then the side effects that they talk about after. It's just mind-blowing that that's not a scary thing to make you want to run away from it. And that's on all medications. Like you hear the long list of side effects, and it's just, and half the time they're like, and
oh, they do that on purpose, not only for time, but it's so that you can't
understand and hear
understand it.
You know, but
I saw, what was it? An eczema commercial, eczema medication commercial. And one of the first side effects that was listed, severe skin reactions.
Right. I remember we're like, what? Like
it's an eczema medication.
And you know what clears up eczema? Plant-based diet.
Proper diet.
Plant-based. Well, yeah. And a lot of things. I mean, we had my bonus mom, JJ, on a few episodes ago when we were talking about who really heals you, Western medicine, holistic healing, and the body's intelligence. And just to go into some, like, give you an update from that episode, she, in a nutshell, JJ found out she had ovarian cancer that had metastasized into her abdominal cavity. Her cancer marker numbers, CA-125, her numbers, her blood work, it was in the 400s initially. She did chemo, like 6 rounds of chemo. Her blood marker numbers did not go down, and her tumor did not shrink. Then she quit that. She said, I'm not doing that anymore. She had already eliminated alcohol. She went on a plant-based diet. She found all these resources with protocols. And in a nutshell, a plant-based diet, which when you, like, I feel like when people hear plant-based diet, they see like some lettuce leaves and some, little peas on a plate, and that you're not going to actually get fulfilled. But man, if you go on and you find there is a gamut of recipes that are highly fulfilling and give you the sensation, if you need the textures of meat, and they give you that, to hit that craving. But she went on to do that, a plant-based diet, eliminated sugar, and found all these, like, we talk and she's like, oh, I made these brownies out of sweet potatoes and cacao. And they're really good. I tried them. But she went in 3 months later and her tumor had shrunk, not a ton, but it had visibly shrunk enough to mark. And then her numbers, her blood marker cancer numbers went down to 111. And the doctor was like, okay, keep doing what you're doing. So for 2 years, she plant-based diet, every now and then might have, something if somebody cooked it and she was visiting. But overall, she restricted some of that, and
she's buying better quality food, too.
food.
She's like ordering certain foods so that she can get better quality.
And she made it a priority because she doesn't have tons of financial resources, and she was she made that a priority because her health was a priority. And she started, even with cancer, she said she felt better than she had in 10 years. And her energy shot through the roof. Well, not only that, okay, fast forward to her numbers kept slowly going down and down and down. And there was minimal decreasing in the tumor, but it was going down as well. And then right before she went in for surgery, so she went in for surgery to finally just remove everything that was in there and just get it out so her body didn't necessarily have to fight that. Well, her CA-125 numbers went down to 44, and 38 is considered normal and no cancer. She was at 44, like six points away from normal. Well, then she had the surgery. They took everything out. Also the metastasis had started shrinking as well. When they went in for the surgery, there was some necrotic tissue where cancer cells had died. And they found that the tumor was non-cancerous at that point, that they found no cancer within it. And even the metastasis that had been in there that they removed, and they took her omentum as like a just in case, and that had no cancer. And
so would this be considered remission, or is this like she's like cured?
Well, I'm guessing the medical field would call it remission, but she has no more cancer. And
to me, that sounds like cure.
I guarantee when she gets her blood work done again, it will show normal. But that was cancerous. And then they pulled it out and that was gone. And I truly believe it was from her going on a plant-based diet. And
she
then
also quit drinking as well.
And alcohol is an extreme detriment to the body. It plays a role in diabetes as well. And so she eliminated, and she found joy still in what she was eating and actually creating new things and trying new things instead of the same old. And, there are certain things that she missed. So she would find an alternative in the plant world. And, mindset has, like, a doctor told her 90%. Mindset is 90% of any of it. The belief that you can heal, the belief that given the proper environment, the body heals. When you get a cut, it heals itself. Well, the body internally is built. The intelligence that created the body heals the body. And our bodies are designed to self-heal if given the proper ingredients, an environment, exercise,
just like Wolverine.
Yeah. I mean, I heal like Wolverine. I mean, I've said that before. I'm like, dang, I healed so fast. That burn. My tattoo healed so fast. whatever it
I've
is.
noticed a lot of my more recent tattoos have healed very fast.
Well, it's probably because you're eating less meat.
Probably.
I don't know. So all that to say, there is definitely a correlation between disease and the body and what you're putting into the body. So the pharmaceutical tie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Chronic disease is expensive and widespread.
Chronic disease is an industry, just like cancer is an industry.
And CDC says that chronic diseases are leading drivers of U.S. healthcare costs, and diabetes alone cost an estimated $413 billion in 2022. So that's 4 years ago. Well, I can't imagine what it's at this point. Poor diet contributes to chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, obesity, and depression. And the system is better at treating symptoms than rebuilding our food culture.
It's easier
And,
too.
you know,
It's easier to just treat the symptom than to. It's easier and it makes more money in the long run if you just treat the symptom, because that person's going to keep coming back.
And, you know, I've had some doctors, because I have hereditary high cholesterol. Like, I've had high cholesterol since my 20s. And even though I don't even eat meat and I watch all those things, the things that they send, they're like, oh, follow this diet. So they do have that is somewhat in there, but it's not the first question.
Mm-mm.
It's like, oh, okay, take this pill. And then also you can look at these things. And so I'm actually not too worried about I looked into it, and it's like a genetic mutation that doesn't allow you to, or it's harder to process the LDL. But because I do watch everything, I'm at
I
all
wouldn't
of
be
my
worried
numbers
about
are
it.
like in homeostasis, so I'm really not worried. But they throw those things at you, but they don't really go in on it. And plant-based is never an option on those diets. It's all like lean meats and whatnot. But the system is better at treating symptoms, like we said. Medication can be necessary and life-saving. We're not saying that you get off all your medicines, but it often enters after decades of food stress, sleep, movement, and environmental issues that have already done damage. So, like we said earlier, it's like a compounded on year after year of abuse to the body, and not necessarily intentional abuse. It's just unconscious. And these companies, well, they profit from food patterns associated with chronic disease and then receive reputation laundering opportunities by sponsoring organizations fighting those diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And we've actually got some very specific examples of some of these companies that are fighting a disease, and then they are profiting from these food companies that actually create some of these diseases or lend to it. And we are not anti-medicine.
Right. We're not telling you not to take. There's medication out there that is necessary for a lot of people, but there is a lot of medication
that could be
eliminated.
It could be eliminated.
Or it could be eliminated
after. And if you got some blood work done, and then let's just say you went on a plant-based diet for 60 days, and then you go back and you get that blood work done again, I would put money on it that your numbers will be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it in myself. I had a thyroid issue some years back, and actually the doctor didn't even point it out. I saw it on my blood work, and it was extremely low. And then I started supplementing, and it corrected itself. And so we're, like we said, we're not anti-medicine, but we are anti a system that waits until the body breaks down and then monetizes the repair.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
when
is
we're
why
not given all of the information to create that environment
right.
for healing. So let's go into we've watched What the Health a few times actually, because it is very informative. He has interviews with doctors, and he's like, hey, the Diabetes Association says that there's all these studies that show that a plant-based diet can heal this. And he's like, the doctor's like, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about diet. And he's like, why? And he's just like, if this is where this is going, he stops the interview.
Yeah, he said, I'm not arguing about this. And the guy was like, the guy that made the documentary was like, I'm not arguing. He was just literally just reading off some facts and asking this doctor, was it the American Diabetes Association or was it the American Cancer? I think it was diabetes. Yeah, it was. He was a doctor. They were sitting in his office. This wasn't like some staged thing where like you could tell by this dude's reaction. He got his body language. He got very uncomfortable very quick. And he literally like storms out. He is like, nope, if we're going to talk about diet, I'm done here. And to hear that come from first off, a doctor, secondly, a doctor that works for the American Diabetes Association, and yet the moment diet gets brought up, he's like, I'm done. That's insanity.
And there were more than one examples of that where he would call these different, like the Susan G. Komen Foundation, and he would call them and he would ask a question about something they have on their website and why they didn't show that 49%, your risk goes up 49% if you consume dairy, like with a link to breast cancer. And they're like, I'm going to have to put you to someone else.
Or they just say, I can't talk
discuss
about that.
This.
They either say, I'll have somebody call you back, or they just flat out say, I can't talk about this. And he did that with multiple organizations like that.
And when they find out that the discussion was going to be about diet and nutrition, some of them would just totally say, never mind, I can't do the interview. And my question is, why? Why is something so basic as food and what we're putting in our body and disease, why is that such a scary thing for them to discuss?
Because money is involved. And when you're involved in these corporations, these companies, and like what we were just talking about, some of these people, it's one of two things. Either A, you don't know. You literally just don't know. Even if you're a doctor, like we told you, they are not taught much about nutrition, if any at all, while they're in school. So they either don't want to talk on something that they don't know about, or I think this is more likely, they're high enough in these organizations that they know what's really going on. Meaning they know that there's money involved. There's lots of money involved, including their own money. They also know, so it could be either one, and either one is bad. Either you don't know, and that's why you don't want to talk about it, or you do know, but you're not willing to give up your career, your job, your money, anything like that. Because I think they also know, these people know how dangerous this conversation is when it comes to big pharma, big food, big agriculture, or whatever. I think that's what it is. It's money, and they don't want to lose that money.
So just to give a brief rundown of What the Health.
You can watch this on Netflix, by the way.
Yes, it is.
I think it's on YouTube as well.
The film's fact page says it's referenced roughly 350 million people worldwide with diabetes. 1 out of 3 Medicare dollars is spent on people with diabetes, and 1 in 10 healthcare dollars spent on people with diabetes. The current CDC figures, I was about to say features. features are even more intense. More than 38 million Americans have diabetes. Another 98 million US adults have prediabetes. And diagnosed diabetes cost an estimated $413 billion, as we mentioned earlier. So, as we've been saying, and that this documentary tries to get across, diet is deeply connected to chronic illness. Processed meat has strong cancer risk evidence. Food industry influence is real. Plant-forward diets can be powerful for many people.
Mm-hmm.
And health organizations and corporate sponsorship deserve some scrutiny. And I mean, speaking of scrutiny, like, let's take a look at the conflicts of interest and some of the companies. The Public Health Nutrition Study, and this was in 2022, examined corporate ties involving the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and found interactions with food, pharmaceutical, and agribusiness corporations. That just raises concerns about implications for the nutrition profession. And the Academy's own website says its corporate sponsorship program allows purposeful collaboration with food and nutrition organizations.
The purpose being money.
And so in What the Health, one of the most disturbing threads, like we're talking about, is the financial overlap between disease-focused nonprofits and the very food companies selling products linked to the diseases those nonprofits are supposedly fighting. So the American Diabetes Association takes money from companies like Dannon, Kraft, Oscar Mayer, Lunchables, and Bumblebee. And the American Cancer Society takes money from Tyson and Yum brands.
They're the ones that own KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell.
And Susan G partners with brands like KFC, Dietz and Watson, and Yoplait. And they actually ask about that on the documentary. They call the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And so it's like, why can these organizations, can they fully challenge the food system while being funded by major players inside that system?
Sounds like some conflict of interests there.
Mm-hmm. So to run down a few of those.
Some specifics on the ones we just mentioned.
KFC, their Buckets for the Cure campaign donated money to Komen through pink chicken buckets. A lot of critics called this pink washing because fried fast food was being used to fund breast cancer awareness, when fried fast food is, again, like detrimental to the body. And ABC News reported that KFC planned to donate 50 cents per pink bucket with a goal of up to 8 million. So if you go buy a bunch of chicken in a pink bucket and eat that fried chicken, you're helping breast cancer awareness.
Susan G. Komen, I have my thoughts about that organization anyway, outside of this conversation. They're not bad people. I know that all the people involved, a lot of the people involved have the best intentions, but let's be real, man. This is 2026. There are many cures for many things out there. And that is known amongst a lot of higher ups. But like I said earlier, cancer is an industry. I mean, we've seen numerous cases and read about numerous cases of it being cured in people. And amongst other things, Dr. Sebi was somebody that did that for a lot of people: cancer, AIDS, HIV, a lot of the majors. So I question certain organizations. It makes you wonder if there's any kind of money laundering going on. I'm not saying they are. It's just a question that I have, especially when I know what I know about disease, but cancer specifically, is that we know that there are cures. There are. Because if you do any kind of digging, most people that have tried to show these cures end up dying suspiciously. You know what I mean? Or people that try to publicize, hey, man, I've got the Dr. Sebi's one of
I
them.
was just going to say. And
So,
I mean, they tried to sue him, and then
he won.
he won because he brought.
They told him to bring 7 people. He brought 77.
Yep.
They said, bring 7 people that you've actually cured, or else we're taking you to jail. And he showed up the next day at court with 77. So 11 times more than what they asked of him. And every one of them was a cured case. All right, keep going.
Yoplait and the Susan G. Komen. There's a lot of statistics that dairy and information and research that dairy is inflammatory to the body. A lot of people have issues with dairy anyway, and that it can, as I mentioned earlier, the National Cancer Institute says consuming dairy increases risk of breast cancer by 49%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting factoid when then you put up with Yoplait plus Susan G. Komen, and they had I'm sure you've seen the pink lid breast cancer campaigns, and the progressive grocer reported a Kroger Yoplait campaign where Yoplait would donate up to $150,000 to the Susan G. Komen. So
that's not a lot of money.
That's really not. I feel like, but it wasn't just that. It was every lid, every pink lid that you had, like, was a percentage or an amount. And actually, so the gentleman on this documentary, he called them out on that, and they click. I'm not going to talk to you about it. And so my thing is, okay, I'm always open to both sides of the argument, always. But if someone presents this to the very companies that are working against these things and providing enlightenment for people with these illnesses, then why can they not answer a question like that? And why? I mean, there is no argument. They have no other side of the argument. And the American Diabetes Association, they were in bed with Dannon, Kraft, Oscar Mayer, Lunchables, Bumblebee, and those food companies. The ADA was taking money from those companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking about how processed meat, Oscar Mayer, Lunchables, are causing chronic illnesses. And so the American Diabetes Association is taking money from those companies. And then that's another thing that they show on there is that, oh, that's the guy he was talking to from the ADA that he was asking, why do you go on your website and it says
they have meal plans on their websites?
Your meal plans are showing processed meat and red meat. And he's like, well, nope, not talking about it. I don't know. I just kind of think when a food company sponsors a health organization, does it influence its messaging? Like beef, it's what's for dinner.
It's what's for dinner.
Or Got Milk.
Man, Got Milk campaign was crazy. They did that for years.
And does it shift blame toward personal choice instead of the food system design? No. And is the goal prevention or is it disease management? Because prevention doesn't raise money, but
obviously
disease management,
prevention, and symptom treatment of symptoms. All right, so let's talk about the next one. And these are just a few that we're bringing up. These are just a few of the bigger ones that are just really good. But fat, sick, and nearly dead. That one talks a lot about juicing, which is a very good practice. I do not recommend replacing everything with juicing. You do have to supplement it with other things, but juicing does, I mean, it's the concentrated goodies from whatever it is you're juicing.
It
So
allows you to get a much more concentrated amount.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to eat 3 apples and a massive handful of spinach. And I mean, I guess you could, but you don't have to. You can juice it.
Yep. So that documentary follows a guy named Joe Cross, who, when he began filming it, he was around 310 pounds and dealt with an autoimmune condition and used steroids, and then undertook a 60-day juice fast and shifted toward a plant-based diet.
And I believe the use of his steroids was for skin issues.
Yeah, he had skin issues. So that film is powerful because it shows that the body can respond quickly when the input changes. It introduced a lot of people to vegetable juicing and plant-forward eating and what that can do, sometimes reversal of things.
Yes. I mean, most of these documentaries, and going back to What the Health, it has several people and examples of that have been on multiple medications for multiple ailments, and as they change their diet, and the majority of them going to plant-based
Mm-hmm.
or plant-forward, as you mentioned, they eliminated the need for the medications, and they are all like in tears because saying things like, I never knew this. I never realized that I could just change this by changing up my diet.
Now, juicing can obviously increase your micronutrient intake, but it does remove a lot of the fiber unless it's blended. So like when you're juicing and stuff and you all that, the pulp and stuff like that, that is a lot of the fiber is in there. So just keep that in mind, that unless you blend some of that with the juice, you are losing out on some of the fiber with certain fruits, but you can get fiber elsewhere. You don't need fiber from juicing. They are also a juice fast, which is where you're fasting and you're only drinking certain juices. That is another fast that you can do. You don't have to do just water only or whatever. You can do a juice fast. They are not appropriate for everyone, especially people with diabetes and eating disorder history, pregnancy, kidney disease, or those on certain medications. So
I wouldn't say it's not good. I would say you do have to be careful, and you have to.
That's why I said it's not appropriate for everyone.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying
you can't
could heal some.
Yes, but it's not appropriate for everyone. Mm-hmm. Certain medications, there's so many different factors that it's the same with anything else. It's the same with going on any kind of diet, carnivore diet or keto diet. You need to make sure that you're in a good state to do that. Whether that be, like I said, maybe you're on a certain medication that could have contraindications with certain things, or somebody with diabetes, you need to just be careful. That's all. I'm not saying, of course, a juice fast I think would be good for pretty much anybody that does it. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. So, sometimes the body doesn't need a miracle. A lot of people think they do. Sometimes it just needs us to stop pouring gasoline on the fire and then calling it lunch.
Word.
So the next one, the last documentary we'll talk about briefly is Super Size Me. This one, a lot of people will probably recognize. This one, I think, is the oldest out of all of the documentaries we've watched. It's not like super old, but it came out. It was one of the first big ones I remember learning about years ago and watching. So real quick, dude named Morgan Spurlock ate McDonald's 3 times a day for 30 days to see what would happen after that. So he gained almost 25 pounds. He increased his cholesterol to 230 milligrams and experienced mood and health issues. So that one really, it points to a lot of the same things we're talking about. So we don't really need to dive super deep into that documentary. You can go watch any of these. These are all on Some of them are on YouTube. Some of them are on different streaming platforms. I don't remember what Super Size Me is on, but you can find out pretty quickly. But I mean, it brings up multiple questions, like, what happens when fast food becomes normal food? It's not just fast food. It's just I eat fast food all the time. Why are the portions so large? That's another thing too, that if you look even like with like McDonald's, look at what their portions used to be back in like
The 50s.
50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s. And then look at the portions now.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane, because you went from just, standard like a cheeseburger, maybe a double cheeseburger, a Big Mac, a Whopper, whatever. You went from those kind of standard type sandwiches to, the Baconator. That one, I do not recommend eating the Baconator. I'm going to be honest with you. It is so tasty. Like, I know it is the antithesis of everything we're talking about. I have not had a Baconator in a long time. They are very tasty, though.
Well,
But
yeah, they're marketed to be tasty.
they are, and but man,
They're chemically altered to be tasty.
They've just become, these portions have become so big, man. And the drinks too. The size of like the fountain drinks that you get, crazy, man. They also, why are children marketed to so heavily and aggressively?
Because if you teach them young and they get addicted young,
they won't
depart.
And something else that it brings to the table is like, why does the cheapest food often harm the body the most? And it's weird. The cheapest food has the most ingredients in it. You would think it would be more expensive to have the ultra processed, because they have to go through processing and then all the different ingredients and stuff, but it ends up being cheaper and worse for you. You would think that the things that don't require nearly as much overhead, at least I would think, are like the things that come out of the ground, and easy stuff, like not easy, but like you're not adding a bunch of stuff to it. This stuff, I don't know.
And that's
somehow
the
it's
thing.
cheaper.
I mean, you can eat an apple and it tastes delicious just as it is. No apple. No ingredients added to the apple.
Mm-hmm.
You take a piece of meat and you have to add seasonings and this and cook it a certain
Butter and
way
salt
and nom
and
nom nom,
pepper
and then it is fit for eating.
But you can add all of those things onto rice and beans and things like that and get that same flavor.
Throw a little liquid smoke on your beans.
Liquid smoke,
My grandma
some nutritional yeast.
Yep, nutritional yeast has like a cheesy undertone, so you can add that to things to give it the flavor, that the cheese flavor you may feel like you're missing out on. But yeah, and like talking about Taco Bell earlier that we partake occasionally, I pay for that the next day. I call it Taco Belly, and I feel it and I notice it in multiple aspects, but definitely in the digestion department and the bloating.
Oh, yeah. All right. So,
and then, well, there's a book that.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
Going back
book.
Just real quick. Can you read that list just from that one creator of all of the documentaries on food that you read to me?
Oh.
Like we recently watched Eating You Alive. Mm-hmm. And then they've created multiple other documentaries that you can just look into so you can see if it piques your interest. You can get more facts and information. And these are doctors that are speaking on this that have had it with the industry that is simply throwing a pill at the ill. You have that list?
Yeah. So along with the ones we talked about today, which are What the Health, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and Super Size Me, you also have one, it's called Hungry for Change, Forks Over Knives, Fed Up, Food Inc., Let's see. The magic pill, eating you alive. We mentioned that earlier as well. Cowspiracy. I think it's the same people that made
Yeah, it is.
Christspiracy that made that one. There's one called Food as Medicine. There's one out there. I have not seen this one yet. I would like to. I think it's on Netflix. It's actually a show, and it's called You Are What You Eat. A twin experiment. So basically, what they did was they got a group of identical twins, and they changed their diets and lifestyles for 8 weeks in a scientific experiment designed to explore how foods impact the body in more ways than physical. So you have two identical twins on two different diets for 8 weeks, and you see the difference. So I think that one's on Netflix, but those are a few good ones to start off. I think a few of the ones we mentioned today actually have sequels. So there's actually a Super Size Me 2. There is a Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead 2 as well.
But if you that is just a handful that we've just offered up.
There's a bunch.
There's innumerable amounts of the same information across the board.
Google health food documentaries, and all of these ones, it'll be a massive list that comes up. You'll see all of the ones I just mentioned, and there's a bunch of other ones too. Let's talk about the book.
Well, I had this book that I read several years ago, and I like to reference every now and then. And it's called Nutrition for Intuition. And as I was on my spiritual journey years ago, and I was trying to find all the ways that I could connect more deeply with Creator and myself and my intuition, I came across this book. It was brought into my awareness, and it explores how dietary choices, beverages, and lifestyle habits can enhance intuitive abilities and spiritual gifts through energetic and physical practices. And big part of the book talks about how dense, processed, chemical heavy foods can make people feel foggy, heavy, anxious, or disconnected. And that stands to reason that dense, chemical heavy foods are going to weigh down the entire being. And that lighter, fresher, more plant-rich foods can make some people feel clearer, more sensitive, and more intuitive. And another thing is you don't know what you don't know. And if you've been doing the same thing, you don't know how it feels on the opposite side of that. So you might say, oh, I feel fine. Or, oh, I have a little bit of fatigue and fogginess, but that's probably just my perimenopause. Well, switch up your diet, and then you'll find out, you might start seeing some of these changes, and you feel lighter and more energetic and clearer. And you might start getting some of those, you connect your head and your heart, and you are able to hear messages more readily, for life guidance. And it doesn't mean that everyone needs to eat the same way. It means hone in on what's good for you. Go within and ask, what is beneficial for me? And is there anything that I should eliminate? Is there anything that I should add? And intuition is easier to hear when the body isn't constantly inflamed, overstimulated, undernourished, or crashing from sugar.
Have you ever noticed that when you clean up your food, your dreams, your intuition, emotions, spiritual sensitivity change?
I definitely noticed that when I quit eating meat and quit drinking alcohol, that I had a pretty big shift in like mood swings and emotional things. And definitely my spiritual sensitivity changed. I mean, I don't think it was the placebo effect. I definitely think that when I was called and felt pulled to make some changes, that it did have an impact. And I was able to, pick up more information from the ethereal realm to help guide along the way, and then also be more alert to like synchronicities. and so that I could see like even confirmation in things that
Right.
had been, I'd been just seeking clarity on. And I do feel like when I'm not nourishing my body, I feel a little lower, foggier. And I've noticed, because I've gone through some phases where I'm almost obsessed about clean eating in the past to way more relaxed to a little more balanced with it all. And I notice the difference in all those things, and physically. Definitely physically.
Absolutely physically, but spiritually and emotionally, I think it helps on all fronts.
The mind, body, and spirit are all connected, so it stands to reason that what you're putting in your body influences those things as well. So we talked about all the garbage and that, we don't want to put in our bodies, or things that should be in moderation, and things to just be aware of. And one thing I do want to say is personal responsibility matters. Absolutely. Your choices affect everything, and it matters. But food companies do engineer products. Like Zach mentioned earlier, there's lobby policy that influences research and fund organizations, and then children are targeted. And so it's just a call to look into and be alert and conscious of the choices that you're making, and reading those food labels and things like that. But some of the foods that actually help the body heal: leafy greens, supports minerals, folate, magnesium, nitrates for blood flow and gut health. I could never
Cruciferous vegetables.
I literally stumble on that word. I feel like it should be pronounced differently than it's spelled, or I don't know. I stumble on that. But those are broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, arugula, Brussels sprouts. And these things contain glucosinolates
There you go.
that convert into compounds studied for detoxification and cancer protective pathways. Berries and colorful plants have polyphenols, antioxidants, vitamin C, and they support the microbiome. Beans and lentils offer fiber, plant protein, resistant starch, minerals, and blood sugar support. Nuts and seeds. You have to be careful on some of it. Not everything is created equal, but they do. A lot of them have healthy fats, minerals, protein. They help you feel full. The Mediterranean diet research found lower major cardiovascular events among high-risk participants assigned to a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil or nuts compared with a reduced fat diet. So those good for you fats instead of just low fat. And whole grains, not refined grains. So we're talking oats, quinoa, brown rice, farro, bucket wheat. They are high in fiber and they slow release energy. So it's going to support you throughout the day versus a crash like sugar. Fermented foods, one of my favies, as I mentioned earlier, sauerkraut, kimchi.
I love kimchi.
Kefir,
I haven't had it in a while.
Yogurt.
Kefir. That's like that drinkable.
I know what it is, but I literally have always thought it was kefir.
Kefir.
Okay.
Have you ever had it?
No.
It's kind of gross.
Yeah,
I bought it once just because I was curious, and it is not. I'm sure. I know it's good for you, but
in the fermented department, I stick to sauerkraut and yogurt,
kimchi, and yogurt, and
miso. Yep, and that gives you gut microbiome support.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy fats, avocado, olive oil, nuts, seeds, omega-3 rich fish. And these type of fats matter more than fat is bad. And Harvard's nutrition guidance emphasizes reducing saturated fat and replacing it with unsaturated fat sources. Herbs and spices, turmeric, ginger, garlic, cinnamon, rosemary, oregano. Going back to JJ and her cancer journey, she's been into turmeric and ginger for a long time, but she was going hard on it, capping her own capsules full. Those are small but mighty and used heavily in Ayurveda. And they're basically the kitchen's little like apothecary.
Cayenne pepper or cayenne is very, very good too. Cayenne has some I use a lot of that in my foods because I like spicy stuff, and cayenne powder gives it heat without changing the flavor. So that's another one that I'm a big fan of.
So there's, like we've been saying, so much research out there. If you have any questions or need any information on particular, dietary nutritionists or anything like that, we can give you some. We've got, being in the beauty industry and having clients one-on-one, we got a guy for that. So if you need something in that department and you're curious about changing and you might need a little help, email us and just express what you need and we can get you in the right direction. A little 5-step reset that you can maybe benefit from. Add before you subtract. Add greens, fiber, water, protein, definitely water. It's like so underrated it just flushes everything through, and just get your water. Stay hydrated. Read ingredients, not just the calories, and consider the source of the calories. Just because this sweet potato has more calories than this low fat, whatever, it's not equal or necessarily bad. Stop drinking sugar. That's just I actually knew someone who drank a lot of Mountain Dew, and when she got pregnant, she quit drinking Mountain Dew and lost 14 pounds. And she was pregnant. Like, not in an unhealthy way.
I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
And it was just...
That was my favorite when I was a kid. I loved Mountain Dew Code Red. When Code Red came out in like 99, oh, dude, that's all I ever wanted to drink. That and Dr. Pepper. And my mom did not care.
Well...
She didn't know, man.
You don't know.
She didn't, and, so, is what it is.
Cook more at home and crowd out fake food with real food. If your grandma or great-grandma would not recognize it, your liver probably might have some questions about it.
Yep.
So maybe a challenge. Eat one huge salad or veggie-heavy meal per day. Or maybe do meatless Mondays.
The 7-day challenge.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So for 7 days, try this out for 7 days for a week.
Yeah. So eat one huge salad or veggie heavy meal per day. Replace one ultra processed snack with fruit, nuts, hummus, or a smoothie. Drink more water, as we said, and avoid processed meat. Add beans or lentils twice. Read every ingredient label before buying. And it sounds laborious, but it's really not.
It'll become second nature. When you're in the grocery store, you'll find yourself, or anywhere buying any kind of food products, you'll find yourself by default looking at that. And anytime I grab a drink, even from the gas station, if it's a drink I've never had before, I'm immediately looking at the ingredient list. Or, the nutritional information. So, like Gatorade everybody's like, oh, Gatorade, Gatorade. Gatorade isn't what it used to be, okay? Just like a lot of foods. Gatorade was developed for the University of Florida, the Gators, which is why it's called Gatorade. And it was literally just like lemon juice, water, and like salt, which is essentially like your electrolytes. And that was basically it. It was like a lemonade type thing that was actually good for you. Now, look at the back of any Gatorade bottle. Do you see how it is insane how much sugar is in those?
And as we mentioned earlier, the Yuka app, YUKA,
Yep.
you can download that app and scan the barcode. And so I'm going to give you a brief example that was in this ranch. Sodium benzoate. It's a preservative that extends the product's shelf life. It has adverse effects on reproduction, adverse effects on the liver. This additive is a preservative that could be reprotoxic, hepatotoxic, nephrotoxic, and immunotoxic. When combined with absorbic acid, it might form benzene, a carcinogenic compound. It could also trigger intolerance reactions such as gastrointestinal issues, asthma attacks, skin reactions, and effects on the nervous system. That's one hazardous ingredient. And there are 4 high risk, 1 moderate risk, 2 moderate risk, and then a limited risk. And if it's got high risk, I mean, just pay attention to how much high risk is going on and, just what it's affecting.
So the point isn't to become perfect. Maybe the point is to become conscious, because every meal is a conversation with the body. Every bite is either adding noise or creating clarity. And once you realize that food is not just fuel, it's information, chemistry, energy, memory, and medicine, you stop asking, what can I get away with eating? And you start asking, what kind of life am I feeding?
So this week, don't overhaul your whole life. Just pay attention. Read the label, notice how you feel, add something alive to your plate, because the system profits when we're disconnected from our bodies, and healing begins when we start listening again. Oh, that just gets me in the heart chakra,
Mm-hmm.
And as always, this episode is brought to you by High Level Design Salon and Barbershop. You can find information about booking with us at highlevel444.com. Again, that's highlevel444.com. And we also, once you navigate to that page and you've checked out the services we offer, you will also find High Level t-shirts, which is our little t-shirt shop for ideas that we've had over the last several years or had inspiration from our podcast episodes. Those are all designed by us and available for sale. We still have the special on the Michael Jackson t-shirt going. And that code,
HLH15.
thank you. I couldn't remember
It's
it.
15% off for the
15% off for the
MJ,
end.
I believe, shirt.
Which goes along with our Michael Jackson episode, by the way, which is really good if you haven't heard it. Then you can move on over to our high level recommendations, which just has a recommendation on the things that we utilize in our daily life that we recommend to our clients, either behind the chair or just for everyday supplements, things of that nature. And do you have anything else to add?
You can also contact us if you would like. Their contact information is all listed there on our website as well, but it is Zach and Jess at highlevel444.com. If you feel like you have any questions or a story or
A testimony,
really,
maybe you
testimony,
shifted
anything like that, or maybe you have an episode idea and you're like, man, I would love to hear you guys deep dive on this. Hit us up. Maybe we'll have, maybe we'll take it into consideration.
Absolutely.
I think that's about it. So Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for your love
Appreciate
and support.
each and every one of you.
We can
And
raise the consciousness of the planet one bite at a time.
one bite at a time. Until next time,
We leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator.
May the Force be with you.
And also with you.
High Level Hairesy.